Hello and welcome to the next episode of Delta Emerald Unscripted. I'm your host, Ian Dominguez, the founder of Delta Emerald Ventures. Delta Emerald is a private equity investor in THC drinks and cannabis technology. Before we get started today, I want to flag our upcoming conference, CanadaCon. This is in its third year. It will be February 6th and 7th in Miami Beach, and also broadcast live for free to anyone that is not attending in person. Strongly encourage you to register your interest in the event, and you can find more information at www.canadatacon.com. Now, switching gears. Today, I'm very excited to have this guest. This guest is Lance Lively. He is the executive director of the Texas Package Stores Association. I'm going to let Lance explain a little bit about what the heck a Texas Package Store Association is for those of our audience who don't know what that means. And then we're going to get into some more detailed questions about the state of Texas. And I think this audience will appreciate that Texas has actually been a leader as it relates to the hemp industry. And we see massive opportunity in terms of consumer uptake and also surely from the population alone, the state of Texas is extremely promising. So Lance, thank you to the show. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for having me this morning. The Texas Package Stores Association has been around for 78 years, representing the interest of liquor store owners in the state of Texas, with about 3,700 locations across this great state. We represent about half of those, and certainly the rest of the interest, even if they're not members. We do a good job of representing them at our state capitol with regard to primarily, up until now, alcohol policy and laws.
Mm-hmm. And for those that don't know much about the Texas Package Store Association, can you explain a little bit about how the package stores also relate to the on-premise trade?
Yeah, Texas is a little unique. There are 3 states in the country that do it the way we do, and that is in terms of on-premise. So if you go to a bar or restaurant in Texas and you have a whiskey and water or a rum and Coke, as an example, that spirit has come from a Texas liquor store. So we deliver 100% of the spirits to all the on-premise locations in the state, which is, again, unique to a certain degree. There are only about 3 states that do it that way.
Yeah. So it would be reasonable to say that when it comes to the liquor trade, Texas package stores are of the utmost importance in terms of the way that the machine works. You think that's a fair statement?
Absolutely. Obviously, there's a 3-tier structure here. You make it, you wholesale it, you retail it. We're the closest to the consumer, obviously, with a key role here in that it's our job to make sure that these products, which are highly regulated and for good reason, don't fall into the hands of minors. I mean, we spend a lot of our effort and energy on making sure that's the singular most important piece of this puzzle, is keeping these products out of the hands of kids.
And we'll get into this, but we are strong supporters of that, both when you talk about for alcohol and especially when it comes to products that contain THC or even CBD. We strongly support the view of age gating in controlled environments, especially with what we call adults in the room that are used to managing controlled products. So let's get things started. Texas is one of the biggest markets in the U.S. for just about anything. I'm actually from Houston originally, so it's also near and dear to my heart. How can you explain to us a little bit about how the association is approaching hemp THC beverages in terms of the distribution or retail framework? Is it a square peg round hole situation, or what's been the reception so far from your member base?
Well, the reception we're getting from our membership is pretty exciting. This is obviously a new category and a space for us. And oddly enough, I kind of fell into this last spring when our Senate introduced an interim charge to study banning Delta 8 and Delta 9. And long about that time, one of my larger members picked up some THC beverages and was selling them, called me and said, "Hey, we're in this space now." So I really became interested in it from not just it's a fascinating space to me, but also the problem with what our legislative body may or may not do surrounding these products. So We did have some of these companies at our trade show this past summer. There was, I know you had Diana Eberline on recently, and she spoke about this, but there were some products there, some companies represented, and that really got the buzz going at our trade show. And subsequently, I know a number of our store owners have now, the space has grown for us in a short amount of time rather quickly, which is exciting to see.
Yes, absolutely. And as this industry ramps and kind of grows within the package store environment, what are some of the key challenges that you've been hearing from your members when they're stocking these products and kind of trying to stay ahead of regulations and kind of lead by example? What are some examples you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, as you are probably aware, in a liquor store in Texas and in most places, you've got to be 21 to enter the store. So the age gating issue is at the top of that, and so we are unique in that way, in that we can spot you if you come to the store and you look like you're underage, you're going to be ID'd, and if you are, you're out. So let's start there. So putting and doing the things that we're selling now, a highly regulated product. We've been doing this again since prohibition was repealed. We are well suited to carry these products and sell them from a safety aspect. And then all the things that we're talking about doing here in terms of public policy and laws that we can pass to put around these, like no marketing to children, age gating, third-party testing, putting guardrails in place to really protect not just us, but our consumers, so that they know what's in these products. And I think retailers, in speaking with a lot of these companies, have done a good job of learning the do's and the don'ts. What happens? How do you get into this space? If I've never had a THC beverage before, how should I consume it? Do I mix it with something? Do I drink it straight? And I think our retail owners have always done a good job in learning about the products that they sell, so that when their consumers do come in and ask them questions like this, they are able to answer those, honestly and impactfully. So, people can enjoy these safely and consume them wherever they may want to.
And question just to add to that is, if I think about a liquor store owner, whether you're talking about Texas, or I was just recently in Tennessee, and I was pleasantly surprised to tell you that I did not meet a single liquor store owner in Tennessee that is not carrying these products and excited about it. And it sounds like you're kind of getting a similar type of sentiment from your member base. But my question is, do you think that is a recognition from their perspective of, I just want to give consumers safe options that they want? Do they see any kind of competitive risk, or in their mind, is it whatever's going to sell well that I can legally sell, I want to be able to sell that in my store? Can you kind of get us into the mind of those that are making this switch or that are adopting this category?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, Ian, and if you look at liquor stores and what we do, and I mean, tens of thousands of SKUs in these stores, right? I mean, there's not just 100 items, there are tens of thousands of them. And trends, like anything in the world that we live in, there are trends. Yoga may trend 1 year over another, and then the next year, soccer is trending higher than it was before. Whatever it may be, right now in the liquor world, tequila is hot, right? So it's trending. These THC beverages are new, and I think they bring a level of excitement, just like any trend that we see. And I can tell you, liquor store owners are extremely good and quick and sharp when it comes to hopping on and attacking new trends and really embracing them, and making sure that they're doing it right. Again, I go back to it's education, and it's getting them studied up and learned up on how and what and all the great and exciting things that this space represents. And so this thing is going off like a rocket, right? And my guys want to be on that ship, and take it as far as they can. And I think they're doing a really good job, and we're helping educate them on things that we can do. I know y'all are doing a great job, and a lot of people in this space are as well. So excited about it, and I think they are, and it's taken off.
And What about on the topic of education, either for the store owner or the person working behind the counter, or especially that consumer? What can Texas package stores do today in terms of sampling? Just let's not talk about THC drinks for a second. What are the rules about sampling if I wanted to sample the latest tequila? Can I do that in a package store?
Yep, you absolutely can. You've got to get permits on tasting permits. There are certain rules and regulations that you have to follow when you lay those products out in your stores and have people come by and consume them. Because again, you can't have an open container in a liquor store, and at that point it becomes an open container. But through rules and regulations and permitting, we're allowed to do that. The THC space is brand new. There really aren't a lot of rules and regulations surrounding it. There are no regulatory bodies. The TABC doesn't regulate it. Department of Public Safety doesn't regulate it. So it's not having a lot of where we're used to a lot of rules and regulations in selling liquor and alcohol, beverage alcohol. This one's a little different. So we're trying to feel our way and make sure we get this right, and obviously want to see laws passed and implemented to do that. So, we're excited about it. Yeah.
We're strongly in agreement there. And we've heard kind of a best practice that has emerged, and let's call this for the time being until we have more clear regulations, which we welcome. Non-dosed sampling works perfectly fine. You're not really serving enough. You shouldn't be serving anything enough to get someone drunk or what have you in the first place. So the notion of sampling a non-medicated, or it's really the wrong term, but let's say just a non-dosed hemp THC product on-prem, that can still work just to get the consumer the chance to taste the flavor and to engage at that level. And then they can take something home and try the real thing themselves in the privacy of their own home.
Yep. I mean, talking about non-dosing on samples versus dosing on samples, I don't know that I have strong opinions top side or bottom on it. I mean, at our trade show, I will tell you, the samples that we did have, I believe, were dosed. So, but people were needing to learn and all of that. It was that's not open to the public. So these are liquor store owners going in and wanting to learn about all these things. And I think that's really, where it turned the corner for us this summer. And these things started to get picked up by more retailers across the state. But those were dosed. So I mean, going into a bar, I can absolutely understand why you wouldn't want to maybe dose that, particularly to someone who's never consumed any kind of THC or cannabis. You don't want to cause any problems there in terms of getting them home and on the road. So
yeah, absolutely. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about competition. Now, I know that direct to consumer is a very hot button issue in the world of alcohol. And you talk to different people, whether it's, say, the Brewers Alliance in beer world versus other folks in beer, like the National Beer Wholesalers, you're going to hear differing and nuanced opinions about this topic of D2C. Lance, I would love to hear what is Texas Package Store's view on D2C, and maybe can you share a little bit of the history of that in the state of Texas?
Yeah, we started to see direct to consumer shipping bills pop up here 2-3 legislative sessions ago. And we have fought against those concepts from day one. Obviously, we want you to come into our store and purchase these products. One of the things that you see in other states with regard to liquor or spirits and direct to consumer is that Massachusetts is a classic case in point, having a very big problem with kids under 21 getting liquor direct shipped to a house or even a street corner for that matter. So there's some inherent problems with that in terms of safety, right?
Yes.
Now, there are those who say, look, wine's been direct to consumer shipped for years. We don't see an influx of wine going to kids. There's not a problem in that space. And my argument with that has always been, I don't think a 16-year-old boy wants to figure out what Cabernet pairs well with the hot dogs he's grilling on the back porch when mom and dad are out of town for the the weekend, and he and his buddies are going to order what they want is cheap liquor through the mail that they can get easily, and that's what they're going to do. So no, they're not getting wine through the mail. That's crazy. So I think it's just a different space. So when you want to try to wrap in THC infused beverages on this, I think from a safety perspective, I know my membership would be a whole lot more comfortable if we were able to see you, ID you, sell it to you, and get you on your way safely home where you can consume it there. Or if, these are consumed in the on-premise space, make sure you're getting a safe ride home. We have a motto: drink responsibly, drive responsibly. And I don't think direct to consumer is something that certainly it's not anything that we're going to support or endorse moving forward. We're fighting these bills now, and we'll do so again this upcoming legislative session here. So that's a very a nasty space for us for sure.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think understand where you stand there. And I tend to agree with you that for a higher priced item sent over the mail, say a bottle of tequila or some expensive wine or something, the likelihood of, the thing I'll add maybe is that requiring someone to provide an ID, even in that context, is completely doable and has been done. I think my concern with hemp specifically is that those that would want to focus on D2C as an opportunity, first of all, our view, for those that don't know, is that retail is really what matters long term for this space. Liquid simply weighs too much to be putting in the post. And aside from that, on this ID checking aspect, our view is that price actually does matter here. And I agree with you that, say, a higher priced item like a bottle of wine, you're more likely to have a customer maybe that's actually willing to go through the process of give their ID and provide it to pick up the package, let's say. And I'm concerned that some people are not taking as great efforts as they should in terms of making sure that IDs are checked properly. We really owe it to ourselves to be leaders in this space on this topic. And I wouldn't want to see D2C be something that kind of causes a baby with the bathwater situation. And so I think I'm with you on this. And just wanted to make sure that we talked about that, because I know it's important for y'all, and I think it's really important for the hemp industry to pay attention to this as well. So let's also now switch gears to the consumer. What have your members told you about Texans that are buying THC drinks? Are they any different from the normal consumer that's walking in a liquor store or a package store? Or how does your member base kind of think about it?
Yeah, a great question. There are cases, and I've heard these stories where someone comes in and the story goes something like this. I've had some medical conditions that don't allow me to consume alcohol anymore. And I'm looking for an alternative to that. I like to consume alcohol in a social setting. What could these drinks mean for me? Right. So it's that category of people who are not drinking for whatever reason, not because they're recovering alcoholics, as an example. They may have some medical condition that prevents them from doing it, and they would just want to consume something socially. So you see a lot of that. We do hear largely from a lot of our veterans with regard to PTSD and things like this, when they come home and obviously things are not going well for them, and they're suffering these ailments, and they're very real, right? And so the stories of soldiers coming back saying, I was drinking a bottle of vodka a day, and I knew that wasn't going to be good for me, and I needed to quit. So what's a way for me to manage what I've got from a stress perspective? And this was a great avenue and a category for them to land in. So you hear those kinds of stories. I mean, then there's the curiosity. I have friends who are social drinkers, certainly not in a big way, and just curious about how it will make them feel. And I've talked to them about making sure that you start slow and work your way up, and do it without alcohol to see what the effects are. Right. So there's no, you're not crossfading or whatever that term is.
Right.
But
You know about crossfading.
right.
You were
So
informed. Yeah,
so yeah, I've gotten very learned on this category over the last
absolutely.
8 months. Um, but anyway, so all those stories from consumers are all fascinating and interesting in terms of why and how they're landing in this area. And I think that will continue to grow as we work through things.
Absolutely. I always think it's always about giving the consumer options and capturing occasions. And there's an interesting study that was put out a while ago now. I think it was by Tinder, where they interviewed folks who did match and ended up going on dates. And they asked them, "Where did you meet when you went on that match?" And it used to be that answer was, say, a bar. And now increasingly it's, say, like a running club or something more active. So the place that people are meeting, and we already know some people just aren't meeting as much. They're just living in their digital worlds or whatever. But when people meet, it's not necessarily going to be tied to an alcohol occasion. So if a liquor store or anyone else in this economy can still participate in those occasions, if the consumer is moving the occasion, say, away from alcohol, that still can be a win. And that's what I think is really interesting about what the Texas market has done, is kind of recognize that and really embrace it. So I'm happy to hear those stories. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you bet.
A couple more from me, and then we can wrap this up. So one thing that we are seeing happen that's most interesting from our view is, let's say, a different way of thinking about these hemp beverages as a liquor store owner. So without naming any names, I will just say that we are aware of certain liquor store chains, and even on the, say, beer distribution side, there is, let's say, an interest in taking an equity interest in these businesses. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, and recognizing that this is not alcohol and that there are other products like energy drinks where this has happened in the past. Where does the Texas Package Stores Association fall on this topic? Do you think it's an opportunity for liquor stores to kind of run after? Another way of asking this could be, say, a private label discussion. Or do you think it's something that's not for your members? How do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, I've pondered this question, and have tried to do so carefully. So in the space we're currently in, you can't have any equity in any brand, right? So a liquor store owner can't have any
Alcohol brand.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
So a liquor store owner can't have any equity or investment within a whiskey company, say whatever. And it's very clear from a 3-tier standpoint. And one of the things we're trying to advocate for in terms of putting guardrails, at least from Texas's standpoint, is that we would advocate for a 3-tier structure on THC products, just like we do on beverage alcohol. And I think that does a number of things for the category. Obviously, with a wholesaler, you're going to be able to get your products to market much faster, more efficiently, and cheaper, quite frankly, which helps the consumer aspect of this. And having a distribution network, whether that's a beer wholesaler or a wine and spirits wholesaler. We do a lot of great things with our partners in that space and would want to continue to see that. So I think from where I sit and the people that I represent, now there may be some liquor store owners out there who are going to listen to this and go, Lance, I don't agree with you at all. I really want to invest in this. And, this is a new idea and a new concept. Why does it have to be like alcohol? And so, I can't speak for everybody. I'm just telling you from what I've got to do from working with regulators, trying to put laws and guidelines in place to begin with, which we have none right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to come at this from the experience that I've seen in our category with beverage alcohol. Let's mimic that and bring that over to this space as well, because I think it's working well for what we do already. Mm-hmm. We understand it. We know it. Let's not take this down too much of a crazy path and get too far out of our lane.
Crawl, walk, run is what.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's kind of that's Lance's 2 cents on this, not necessarily speaking for the association.
Sure.
but trying to make sure we mimic what we currently do.
Yep, understood. Very helpful. And then that actually parlays nicely into the last topic I want to talk about, which is what are your priorities for this upcoming session? And we don't have to talk about hemp specifically, but I think it's really important for our audience to know what really matters to Texas package stores today and in the near term and from a policy standpoint.
Yeah, wow, we've got a full plate, I'll tell you, coming up. We're fighting Amazon on some fronts, Walmart on some fronts, direct to consumer shipping, which we talked about earlier. RTDs, liquor in a can is what we call it. So if you've got, a vodka soda in a can right now, you can only buy that in a liquor store because it's got vodka in it. And
as opposed to having it as an option in a convenience store.
Yeah. And the convenience stores and grocery stores really want to pick these products up, but they do have spirits in them. So we're fighting that on a number of fronts. And honestly, we fight this one every session. We're opposed to being open on Sunday. Oddly enough, people think why? I mean, liquor stores seems they want to be open 7 days a week. But the reality is you spread profits of 6 days over 7. Your overhead goes up. Price of the product's going to have to go up. Consumers are going to get mad about that. But we have to be able to pay our bills. So we're opposed to opening on Sunday, and we fight that every session. Interesting. So
who's trying to force y'all to go open every?
It comes primarily from the supplier tier, mainly companies that are not domiciled in the United States of America, even. So it's just it's a different mindset from their perspective than it is ours. Yeah. So that's who we're fighting on that one typically.
I see. Last question for me. If we look ahead 3 to 5 years, how do you expect the landscape to look for THC in package stores and in Texas more broadly?
Well, assuming we can get guardrails put in place, Ian, not just here in Texas, but at the federal level, I think once we can get over some of those challenges, just putting in place and being mindful of all the things that you and I have talked about today, moving forward, I think this is a space, if we can get the guardrails put in, as I said, I think it's a space that will be an exciting space. I think it will grow exponentially. If you look at beverage alcohol over the last 88 years since Prohibition was repealed, all the excitement, exciting and new innovations that have come out in our space alone, I see that for this category as well. So I think the sky is the limit. And if we can get good laws in place that will, protect our kids and keep it out of their hands, I think, let's see where this thing goes. I think it can go far.
Brilliant. Well, Lance, thank you so much for your time. I know people are going to really appreciate hearing from you. And I know you sounds like you probably won't be able to join us for CanadaDataCon, but you can always log in and view it live. Where are you going to be? You said you're going to be at a policy meeting, right?
Yeah, I've got, we're in legislative session at that point. So I don't stray too far away from, I don't really stray from Austin during legislative session at all. Because you got to keep an eye on them.
Great. Well, thanks again, Lance, and take care.
Thank you for having me.
All right.